I was just thinking about this morning, this very subject.
Is this 5 to 7?
5 to 7.
So thank you for asking me this question. You didn't specify in your question when then was. So let's talk about entrepreneurs then, when an entrepreneur was an entrepreneur. And I'm most familiar with the period from about 1850 to about 1915, which is the beginning of World War I. In this period of time, there was a group of men who came from poverty. They had no money to start with, and they built fortunes that amounted in the millions or the hundreds of millions, which today would be 100 times that, which means they're hundreds of billions of dollars is how big their fortunes are. So they make our billionaires of today look like they were pikers. And who were these gentlemen that the liberals love to refer to as robber barons? That's what they called them. They said the robber barons because they felt, they being the liberals, or Jennings and Bryan, the famous politicians of the period, they felt that they had stolen the economy and concentrated it into their own possession. But they didn't, they being the liberals, didn't understand that these people created the incentive to grow America. And without these barons developing the industry of America, it would have been dispersed and wouldn't have been concentrated. So what these robber barons did was they created monopolies. And now, of course, it is immoral and unconscionable and illegal to have a monopoly. And I still don't figure out how Microsoft has a monopoly in a non-monopoly society. But let's talk about then, right? Because now, what's an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is, too many entrepreneurs are busy trying to play the stock market and manipulate companies and manipulate stocks. And they're not entrepreneurs. They're just rapists. They just want to rape the country and make money without giving anything back. And a true entrepreneur gives back to a society. He has to give back to the society, or the society won't support his activities. So the way to be successful at anything, especially being an entrepreneur, is you deliver to the society and the people in the society what they want, because they have to buy the product from you. They have to support you. They have to feed you money, power, brains, employment. People that have brains have to be willing to work for you. And that can only occur is if you are giving back. Otherwise, they'll say, we don't want to have anything to do with you, and you're busted. You're broke. You're dead. But let's go back to our friends of the last 2 centuries ago now, because we're talking. You had the most famous, which was J.D. Rockefeller. And J.D. was a pretty much of a scoundrel because he loved to accumulate wealth and he didn't care whether he gave anything back. So I'm going to throw him out because I don't like J.D. Rockefeller and I don't like his grandson, David Rockefeller. I don't like any of the Rockefellers because the Rockefellers are only interested in one thing: power and money. And they don't care about anybody else, and they don't care about the society. And David Rockefeller, who up till, I'm not sure whether he's even alive anymore, but he was the one that ran the family fortune from World War II, through World War II, up till probably at least 10 years ago. He'd be an old man now. He was asked once about why he didn't run for president, because he was the most powerful man in the United States. He was, in fact, the most powerful man in the United States. And I'll explain to you why in a minute if you're interested. So he said, the president is president for 8 years. He says, I am the head of this country for life. How do you like that? So why was J.D. Rockefeller running the world? Number one, when Israel was being formed, they needed the United Nations votes. And they didn't have enough votes. So they went to the king here, J.D. Rockefeller, and they said, we know that you were selling oil to the Nazis during World War II. We have documented proof that is high treason, and it makes you a traitor. Now, we need South America's vote in the United Nations to become a country. And they sold their soul to the devil, and they agreed not to go after and hunt more Nazis, and they agreed not to turn this information over to the appropriate American government. And Rockefeller was able to tell all the South American countries that they're voting for Israel. Is he a king? He's a god. The only problem is this god died. Thank gosh. God. So let's talk about other robber barons of the 1800s. Let's talk about Andrew Carnegie. Now, Andrew Carnegie was probably the second richest man during that period. And Andrew Carnegie brought the Bessemer steel process from Europe and built a plant in the United States and started to develop it. And he expanded and expanded, and as companies went broke, he would buy them at wholesale prices during the Depressions. They're brand new plants. They build a brand new plant. Bad business people, they go broke. He'd buy the plant for 50 cents on the dollar, and the next boom, he had plants. By the time he sold all of his steel mills to U.S. Steel in 1900, right at the turn of the century, he controlled 70% of the steel manufacturing in America. 70%. Unbelievable. He created a steel industry, which of course created skyscrapers, railroads, railroad tracks, and all that stuff to build America. So an entrepreneur then was a man who contributed to the wealth of the country. An entrepreneur now is a thief. Madam Toastmaster. Woo-hoo!